June 14, 1985, dawned bright and clear over Athens International Airport. TWA Flight 847, a Boeing 727 with registration number N64339, sat at Gate 6, preparing for what should have been a routine morning flight to Rome. The aircraft had arrived earlier from Cairo, and now a fresh crew was boarding for the Athens-Rome leg. Captain John Teststrake, a veteran pilot with thousands of hours of flight time, settled into the left seat. At 52 years old, Teststrake was known for his calm demeanor and professional expertise. First Officer Phil Maresca took the right seat, while Flight Engineer Christian Zimmerman completed the cockpit crew. In the cabin, Flight Service Manager Uli Derrickson, a 39-year-old German-American, led a team of 4 flight attendants: Judy Cox, Hazel Hesp, Elizabeth Howes, and Helen Sheehan. Among the 153 passengers boarding that morning was 23-year-old Robert Dean Stetham from Waldorf, Maryland. A steelworker second class in the U.S. Navy, Stetham was a member of Underwater Construction Team 1, returning from a repair assignment at the Naval Communications Station in Nia Makri, Greece. Tall, athletic, with sandy brown hair, Stetham was excited to get home. He had no way of knowing that he would never see American soil again. Also boarding the flight, unnoticed by anyone, were 2 young Lebanese men. Muhammad Ali Hamadeh, 21 years old, carried a forged passport. His companion, whose identity would remain mysterious for years, had a 9mm pistol and 2 hand grenades hidden beneath his clothes. They had managed to slip these weapons through Athens airport security, which was notoriously lax in 1985. At 10:10 a.m. local time, TWA Flight 847 pushed back from the gate and took off, climbing into the brilliant Mediterranean sky. Destination: Rome. Flight time: approximately 90 minutes. But the flight would not land in Rome. Not that day. Not for 17 horrific days. 20 minutes after takeoff, as the Boeing 727 leveled off at cruising altitude over the Aegean Sea, the 2 Lebanese men made their move. The first hijacker burst from his seat, pulled out his pistol, and charged toward the cockpit. Flight attendant Uli Derrickson, standing in the forward galley preparing drinks, saw him coming. Before she could react, he kicked her viciously in the chest, sending her sprawling. The second hijacker followed, brandishing 2 hand grenades, their pins already pulled, his thumbs the only thing preventing detonation. They smashed through the cockpit door. The one with the pistol began pistol-whipping Captain Teststrake and Flight Engineer Zimmerman, screaming in broken English, "We have bomb! We kill you! New course, Beirut, now!" Teststrake, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, remained remarkably calm. Okay, we'll do what you want, just don't hurt anyone." In the cabin, passengers froze in terror as the hijackers' accomplices began moving through the aisles, collecting passports, tying people's hands with extension cords ripped from reading lights, screaming at anyone who moved. Uli Derrickson, recovering from the kick, realized she might be the passenger's only hope. One of the hijackers spoke to her in German. His English was poor, but his German was fluent. This was Muhammad Ali Hamadeh. Throughout the ordeal, Derrickson would serve as the crucial translator between hijackers, crew, and passengers. "You will translate," Hamadeh told her in German. "You will do exactly as we say, or people will die. We want all Jews. You will tell us who are Jews." Derrickson made a split-second decision that would save lives. "I don't know who is Jewish," she lied. "We don't ask religion. Only the passengers know." The hijackers demanded the plane land in Beirut. Captain Teststrake radioed ahead. "Athens Control, TWA 847, we have been hijacked. Armed terrorists request clearance for Beirut." At 12:45 p.m., TWA Flight 847 touched down at Beirut International Airport. Lebanese authorities, caught completely off guard, tried to block the runway by parking vehicles. But militants from Amal, a Shiite militia allied with the hijackers, cleared the obstacles at gunpoint. Once on the ground, the hijackers' demands became clear. They wanted the release of 766 Shiite Muslim prisoners held by Israel. They wanted international condemnation of Israel and the United States. They wanted the world to pay attention. "If demands not met, we kill Americans one by one," Hamadeh announced through Derrickson. The hijackers released 19 passengers during this stop, elderly women and children. But they also collected all the passports and began interrogating passengers. They were looking for Americans, especially American military personnel. When they discovered there were U.S. service members on board, including Robert Stetham, their brutality escalated. But not yet. First, they needed fuel. At 2:30 p.m., TWA 847 took off again, this time for Algiers, Algeria. The hijackers hoped Algerian authorities would be more sympathetic to their cause. Flight 847 landed in Algiers at approximately 6 p.m. local time. The aircraft sat on the scorching tarmac as the hijackers negotiated with Algerian authorities for fuel. The temperature inside the cabin, with no air conditioning, climbed above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Passengers, their hands still bound, suffered from heat exhaustion and terror. The ground crew refused to refuel the aircraft without payment. The hijackers went ballistic, threatening to execute passengers. Uli Derrickson, thinking quickly, offered her personal Shell Oil credit card. The ground crew charged $5,500 for 6,000 gallons of jet fuel. TWA would later reimburse her, but at that moment, her quick thinking bought time. During the Algiers stop, 20 more passengers were released, but the hijackers were growing increasingly agitated. Their demands had not been met. They needed to show they were serious. At 5:40 a.m. on June 15th, Flight 847 departed Algiers, heading back to Beirut. During the flight, the violence began in earnest. The hijackers had identified all American military personnel aboard. They focused their rage on the youngest and fittest, Navy diver Robert Stetham. The second landing in Beirut occurred around 8:30 a.m. on June 15th. This time, more than a dozen additional terrorists boarded the aircraft, reinforcing the original hijackers. The situation was spiraling beyond anyone's control. The hijackers demanded fuel. The tower refused. Hamadeh and his accomplices decided to make an example. They dragged Robert Stetham to the front of the cabin. Passengers watched in horror as the young sailor was beaten savagely with an armrest torn from a seat. They punched him, kicked him, struck him repeatedly in the face and body. "Scream!" they demanded. "Scream into radio so tower gives fuel." The hijackers held a microphone to Stetham's face, wanting him to beg for fuel, to show the tower that passengers would be killed unless their demands were met. Robert Dean Stetham, broken and bleeding, refused. Not a single cry escaped his lips. Captain Testrake, listening from the cockpit, would later say, "He was the bravest man I've ever seen in my life." Stetham knew that as long as the plane remained on the ground without fuel, there was a chance for rescue. His silence might save the others. But his silence enraged Muhammad Ali Hamadeh. In a fit of fury, Hamadeh pulled out his pistol and shot Robert Stetham point-blank in the right temple. The young sailor crumpled to the floor. The hijackers dragged his body to the aircraft door and threw it onto the tarmac. Then, in a final act of brutality, they fired another shot into his lifeless body as it lay on the ground. Television cameras captured the scene. Around the world, people watched in horror as a body in a blood-soaked shirt lay alone on the Beirut airport tarmac. In Virginia, Robert Dean Stethem's brother, Patrick, watched the news coverage. Something about the shirt looked familiar. With a sickening realization, he recognized it. He had given Robert that shirt as a gift. The body on the tarmac was his brother. Robert Dean Stethem's face was so badly beaten that he could only be identified by his fingerprints. He was 23 years old. After murdering Stetham, the hijackers received their fuel. Flight 847 took off again for Algiers, where it remained for 25 hours. During this stop, 65 more passengers were released. Then the aircraft returned to Beirut a third time on June 16th. This would be its final destination. The 39 remaining hostages, all American men, were removed from the plane and dispersed to various locations around Beirut, held by different Shiite militia groups. The hostages endured beatings, mock executions, constant threats, and psychological torture. Some were held in basements, others in apartments, always blindfolded, always uncertain if the next moment would be their last. The crisis became an international media spectacle. News crews from around the world descended on Beirut. The hijackers, emboldened by the attention, held press conferences. Captain Testrake, still technically in charge of his aircraft, was paraded before cameras, a gun held to his head, forced to read statements. The Reagan administration faced an impossible choice: negotiate with terrorists, send in a military rescue that might kill the hostages, attack targets in Lebanon. Behind the scenes, complex negotiations occurred. Nabi Berri, a moderate Shiite leader and Lebanese government minister, became the intermediary. Israel, under intense pressure, agreed to release 31 Lebanese prisoners, though officials insisted this was planned before the hijacking. Finally, on June 30, 1985, after 17 days of captivity, the hostages were released. They were transported to Damascus, Syria, then flown to Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland, where President Ronald Reagan welcomed them home. But for the Stetham family, there was no joyful reunion. Robert's parents, Richard and Patricia Stetham, both Navy veterans themselves, received their son's flag-draped casket instead. Robert was buried at Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors, posthumously awarded the Bronze Star and Purple Heart. Even as the hostages were still being held in Beirut, FBI agents were building a case. Special Agent Thomas Carter, based in the FBI's International Terrorism Operations Section, was assigned as lead investigator. Carter knew the challenges immediately. The hijackers were in Lebanon, a country torn apart by civil war with no functioning government capable of cooperating with American law enforcement. There was no extradition treaty. Lebanon was effectively a lawless zone controlled by various militias. But the FBI had tools. First, they had survivors, including Ollie Derrickson, Captain Testrake, and dozens of passengers who could identify the hijackers. Derrickson provided crucial information. She had spent hours in close contact with Muhammad Ali Hamadeh. She could describe his appearance: black hair, dark brown eyes, approximately 150 pounds, 5 foot 7 inches tall, with a distinctive mole on his right cheek below his eye. She remembered his voice, his mannerisms, even the German songs he asked her to sing to calm him during tense moments. Captain Testrake and the flight crew provided detailed accounts of the hijacking's progression. Passenger testimonies filled in details about the violence, the beatings, the murder of Robert Stetham. The FBI also had forensic evidence. Robert Stethem's body had been recovered and underwent autopsy. The bullets that killed him were extracted and analyzed. Blood evidence from the aircraft was collected and preserved. International intelligence agencies shared information. Israeli Mossad provided details on known Hezbollah operatives. The CIA contributed signals intelligence, intercepted communications that helped identify the hijackers' network. By November 14, 1985, the FBI had enough evidence. A federal grand jury indicted Muhammad Ali Hamadeh, along with 2 accomplices, Hassan Eaz al-Din and Ali Atwa. The charges were staggering: aircraft piracy, hostage-taking, assault, murder of a U.S. national, and conspiracy. An Interpol Red Notice was issued, control number A562-12-1985. The U.S. State Department offered a reward of $250,000 for information leading to each hijacker's arrest and conviction. But the hijackers had vanished into Lebanon's chaos. They were protected by Hezbollah, which operated with virtual impunity in southern Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburbs. The case seemed destined to remain unsolved, another example of terrorists escaping justice. Then came an unexpected break. On January 13, 1987, 19 months after the hijacking, Mohammed Ali Hamadeh arrived at Frankfurt International Airport in West Germany. He was traveling under a false name, en route to another destination, carrying luggage he thought would pass undetected through security. But German customs officials, as part of routine screening, decided to inspect his bags. Inside, they found liquid explosives, a significant quantity, enough to bring down an aircraft. Hamadeh was immediately arrested on German weapons charges. His fingerprints and photographs were sent through Interpol channels. Within 24 hours, the FBI made the connection. This was Mohammed Ali Hamadeh, wanted for the murder of Robert Stethem. Agent Thomas Carter was on a plane to Germany before the day ended. The United States immediately filed an extradition request. The FBI wanted Hamadeh brought to America to stand trial for murder, hijacking, and hostage-taking. Given the death penalty's existence in U.S. federal law, Hamadeh could face execution. But the situation became complicated quickly. Within days of Hamadeh's arrest, two German nationals, Rudolf Cordes and Alfred Schmidt, were kidnapped in Lebanon by Hezbollah. The message was clear: release Hamadeh or the Germans would be killed. The German government faced an agonizing decision: extradite Hamadeh to America and risk their citizens' lives, or try him in Germany. Germany chose sovereignty. They would prosecute Hamadeh themselves in German courts, under German law. The FBI was frustrated but cooperated fully. If Hamadeh couldn't be tried in America, at least he would face justice somewhere. The trial of Mohammed Ali Hamadeh began in Frankfurt in early 1988 and lasted over a year. It was one of the most significant terrorism trials in German history, conducted under extraordinary security measures. Prosecutors built their case methodically. Uli Derrickson flew to Frankfurt to testify. She walked into the courtroom, saw Hamadeh sitting calmly in the defendant's box, and identified him without hesitation. "That is the man," she said in German. "That is the one who killed Robert Stethem." Captain John Testrake testified about the hijacking's progression. He described Stethem's courage, the brutal beating, the cold-blooded murder. Passengers testified about the terror, the beatings, the death threats. Medical examiners presented autopsy evidence. Ballistics experts matched the bullets recovered from Stethem's body to the type of 9mm pistol Hamadeh had carried. FBI Special Agent Thomas Carter testified about the investigation, presenting documentation, photographs, forensic evidence. The case was airtight. Hamadeh's defense attorneys argued he was merely a soldier in a political struggle, that Stethem was a military target in the Lebanese conflict, that the hijacking was an act of war, not terrorism. The German prosecutors demolished these arguments. Robert Stethem was a passenger on a civilian aircraft, not a combatant. He was tortured and executed in violation of every international law. This was murder, pure and simple. The trial attracted massive media coverage. The Stethem family, Richard, Patricia, and Robert's brothers Kenneth and Patrick attended, sitting through days of painful testimony, hearing again and again how their beloved son and brother had died. On May 17, 1989, after careful deliberation, the German court delivered its verdict: guilty on all counts: murder, hostage-taking, assault, hijacking. Mohammed Ali Hamadeh was sentenced to life imprisonment, the maximum penalty under German law. The Stethem family received the news with mixed emotions. Justice had been served, but Hamadeh would not face the death penalty. In Germany, life imprisonment typically means 15 to 20 years with possibility of parole. Still, for the moment, it was a victory. A terrorist was caught and convicted. Robert Stethem's murder had been answered with accountability. For 16 years, Mohammed Ali Hamadeh sat in a German prison. The Stethem family tried to move forward, though the pain never really left. Robert's name lived on. A U.S. Navy destroyer, USS Stethem, DDG-63, was commissioned in 1995 in his honor. Memorial parks, buildings, and facilities across America bore his name. Then, in December 2005, came devastating news. The German government announced that Hamadeh had been granted parole. After serving 19 years, he was being released. On December 15, 2005, Muhammad Ali Hamadeh walked out of prison a free man. The next day, he flew to Lebanon. The timing was suspicious. Just weeks earlier, a German archaeologist named Suzanne Osthoff had been kidnapped in Iraq. She was released on December 18, 2005, 2 days after Hamadeh returned to Lebanon. Many suspected a secret prisoner swap, though German officials denied it. The Stetham family was outraged. Patricia Stetham, Robert's mother, gave emotional interviews, her voice shaking with anger and grief. "They let my son's murderer go free," she said. "After everything Robert suffered, after his courage, after his sacrifice, this is how Germany honors his memory? By freeing his killer?" The FBI immediately requested Hamadeh's extradition from Lebanon. On February 14, 2006, the United States formally petitioned the Lebanese government to arrest and extradite Muhammad Ali Hamadeh. Lebanon refused. Hamadeh was a Lebanese national, they claimed, and Lebanon did not extradite its citizens. Besides, Lebanon's government had virtually no control over Hezbollah-controlled areas where Hamadeh was believed to be hiding. On February 24, 2006, the FBI added Muhammad Ali Hamadeh to its most wanted terrorists list, offering a reward now increased to $5 million for information leading to his capture. Chapter 10. The Pursuit Continues. The case of TWA Flight 847 remains open to this day. 3 of the hijackers, Muhammad Ali Hamadeh, Hassan Is al-Din, and Ali Atwa, remain at large, living somewhere in Lebanon, protected by Hezbollah. A 4th hijacker, Imad Mughniyeh, who was Hezbollah's military chief and allegedly the mastermind behind the attack, was killed in 2008 by a car bomb in Damascus, Syria. Many believe Israeli or American intelligence was responsible, though no one claimed credit. In 2019 came another break. Greek police arrested a 65-year-old Lebanese man on the island of Mykonos, suspected of involvement in the hijacking. He was detained on a German arrest warrant, but after legal proceedings, he was not extradited, adding to the frustration of those seeking justice. For the FBI, the TWA Flight 847 case represents both success and failure. They identified the hijackers, built prosecutable cases, secured one conviction, but they could not bring the killers to America for trial, and they could not prevent Hamadeh's release. Robert Stetham's family continues to advocate for justice. In 2002, they filed a civil lawsuit against the Islamic Republic of Iran, alleging that Iran had supported and directed Hezbollah's terrorist operations. In 2006, they won a judgment of over $300 million in damages, though collecting such judgments against foreign governments is virtually impossible. The case has had lasting impacts on American counterterrorism policy. The TWA Flight 847 hijacking, along with other incidents, led to major improvements in aviation security, the creation of specialized hostage rescue units, and new laws strengthening the federal government's authority to prosecute international terrorism. Today, Robert Dean Stetham rests in Arlington National Cemetery, his headstone reading, SW2 DV, U.S. Navy, Purple Heart, Bronze Star. His legacy extends far beyond his grave. The USS Stetham continues to serve with distinction in the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet. On August 24, 2010, in a ceremony aboard the ship in Yokosuka, Japan, Robert Stetham was posthumously promoted to Master Chief Constructionman, the highest enlisted rank in the Navy's construction force. His brother Kenneth accepted the honors on behalf of the family. Memorial facilities bearing Robert's name serve military personnel and their families across America. Children play in Robert D. Stetham Memorial Sports Complex in Waldorf, Maryland. Students learn trades at the Robert D. Stetham Educational Center. Sailors train at Robert D. Stetham Barracks in Virginia Beach. Captain John Testrake, who witnessed Stethem's final moments, never forgot the young sailor's courage. Before his death in 2017, Testrake gave numerous interviews about Flight 847, always emphasizing Stethem's bravery. "He could have screamed," Testrake said. "He could have begged. Instead, he stayed silent. He knew that if the plane got fuel, they'd take off and any chance of rescue would be lost. So he took the beating, he took the torture, and he died without giving them what they wanted. That's a hero." Uli Derrickson, the flight attendant whose quick thinking and courage saved many lives, continued flying until the late 1980s. She was awarded the Silver Cross for Valor by the Legion of Valor, the first woman ever to receive this honor. A television movie, The Taking of Flight 847, the Uli Derrickson story, aired in 1988. Derrickson passed away in 2005, just months before learning that Hamadeh had been released. The Boeing 727 aircraft that served as Flight 847, registration N64339, was repaired and returned to service. Remarkably, it remained with TWA until September 30, 2000, when it flew the airline's final Boeing 727 revenue flight. It was then retired and eventually scrapped. As for the hijackers who remain at large, Muhammad Ali Hamadeh, Hassan Izz al-Din, and Ali Atwa are believed to be living in Lebanon, still under Hezbollah protection. They are old men now, in their 60s. Some reports in 2010 suggested Hamadeh might have been killed in a CIA drone strike, but these reports were never confirmed. He remains on the FBI's most wanted terrorists list. The reward for information leading to their capture stands at $5 million each. The FBI's investigation remains active, though leads are scarce. Every year on June 15th, the anniversary of Robert Stethem's murder, FBI agents working international terrorism cases are reminded, this case is not closed. Justice delayed is not justice denied. The hunt continues. The story of TWA Flight 847 is ultimately about courage in the face of evil. It's about a young sailor who refused to break. It's about a flight attendant who risked her life to protect passengers. It's about a pilot who kept his composure under the worst circumstances imaginable. And it's about the relentless pursuit of justice, even when justice seems impossible to achieve. Robert Stethem's murderer walked free, but his name lives on. His sacrifice is remembered. His courage inspires. As Patricia Stetham, Robert's mother, said in a 2008 interview, "They can hide Muhammad Ali Hamadeh, they can protect him, they can let him live free, but they cannot erase what my son did. Robert won. He didn't break. He didn't give them what they wanted. Even in death, he defeated them. That's the truth they have to live with." The investigation may never truly end, but Robert Stethem's legacy is secure. He was, as his captain said, the bravest man anyone had ever seen. And his story, tragic as it is, reminds us that even in humanity's darkest moments, courage and sacrifice can shine through.